Yeah, absolutely. Phil Anselmo did say he would come sing with my band, and I have proof in writing. So to put this story in some sort of context for you, we have to go back to the late 80s when I was really young and my complete fascination with heavy metal. Starting with classic rock and then of course Black Sabbath, like so many of us, my complete fascination with Tony Iommi, me being a guitar player, and then the thrash metal scene that was happening at the time with Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer, all that type of thing. That was really what I enjoyed the most in heavy metal. So fast forward a couple of years to 1990, which for me was the pinnacle of metal. I was old enough to appreciate, to start going to shows, even though I had seen Metallica on their Injustice for All back in '88, but I was really getting into being able to go see shows and be involved. And that year you have, in July, Pantera comes out with Cowboys from Hell. You've got Anthrax with Persistence of Time in August. September, you've got Megadeth with Rust in Peace. And come October, you've got Slayer with Seasons in the Abyss. But Cowboys from Hell, I remember the first time putting that cassette tape in. And you hear that intro with Dime's guitar, and it's immediately just a different tone and a different aggressive nature. And then Phil comes in and rips your head off. And I knew immediately that this was my band, that I loved absolutely everything that they were doing. At that time, with all the bands that I talked about before, they were really important, and they still are for me and in my metal world. But Pantera was somebody that I got to grow up with. I was already listening to metal when they came out. And yeah, Pantera had a handful of albums before Cowboys from Hell came out, but it wasn't the Pantera that we know and love today. So, I consider Cowboys from Hell being that debut album of theirs. So Pantera sets the tone and changes my metal world. So now fast forward a couple more years to 1992. You've got Black Sabbath reuniting with Dio for Dehumanizer, and you've got Pantera coming out with Vulgar Display of Power. I was lucky enough during the early 90s to catch Pantera quite a few times, and I was able to get backstage passes to a handful of shows. I think my buddy Aaron was working at the ASU radio station, was able to kick him down from time to time. Honestly, I don't really remember. But what I do remember is the first time I saw Pantera. That's June 24th of 1992 on the Vulgar Display of Power tour. And they played Celebrity Theater here in Phoenix, Arizona. The cool thing was that Celebrity Theater is in the round. It holds about 2,600 people, I suppose. But this was cut in half. So what do you have? Maybe 1,200, 1,300 on a sold out show, maybe? I don't know if it was sold out or not. So anyway, I get to the show. I'm not 100% sure how I did. Maybe my mom dropped me off. But everything that happened next is locked in my brain. And I go into Celebrity Theater, and Crowbar opens the show. Next comes up White Zombie. And White Zombie had just released Les Exorcistas a few months before, I think in March of '92, and this is in June, so a few months, and they're supporting that album. Absolutely mind blown, fell in love with that band and Rob Zombie from that day forward. But then Pantera came out, and anybody who was able to see Pantera in the early 90s, or frankly, any time you were able to see Pantera, they did not disappoint. As a matter of fact, they were insane and crazy and huge and loud and aggressive and mind-bending type of performance. Well, anyway, awesome concert, mind-bending experience, especially for this, young heavy metal kid. And, great show. Find myself backstage, wandering the backstage hallways. And I run into the guys from Crowbar. I remember running into Rob Zombie, and I think I told him how awesome I thought he was, but he was kind of scary with his shades and his dreads and hat. And I don't know. I did not get his autograph or anything. But coming down the hall, I see Dimebag Darrell, and I'm enamored, starstruck. I walk up to Dimebag and I say, "Hey man, great show, or whatever I said to him, how influenced I was and how awesome I thought the sound was and how much I loved the band. And I said, I'd like your autograph. And he says, absolutely, friendliest guy on the planet. I didn't have a pen, I didn't have a paper, I was so unprepared for this. And I told him that. I said, I don't have anything. He goes, it's all right. And he grabs me by the arm or shoulder, and he walks me down the hall a little bit and into the Pantera dressing room, which was the size of a closet. He opens the door, he walks me in, and who's sitting there but Vinny and Rex and Phil, with a big mountain of Heineken cases, and no, they did not offer me a beer at all. So I'm standing there in the dressing room. It's just me and Pantera. There's nobody else in there. There's no management. There's no other people seeking autographs. It's literally me and the band. So I'm standing there, and Dimebag says, hey, he wants some autographs. And the band is super friendly, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. And he goes, but he doesn't have a pen or a paper. So Dime walks over to one of the cases of Heineken. He flips it over. He rips the bottom off. Somebody hands him a Sharpie. And Dime throws me an autograph on the bottom of this beer box. And then Vinny signs it too. And I think he said to Adam, rock on, something like that. We'll look at it. And then Rex signs it. And of course, Phil signs it. Just the absolute nicest guys on the planet, making this young kid's day and year really massive impression on the rest of my music life. So we're talking about what I don't know. I think I'm just drooling and being fascinated and starstruck. And somehow I got the nerve, we'll say, to talk to Phil. And this is where things changed just a touch. I was playing music. I'd been playing music for a couple of years. I was writing music, heavy metal, of course, with my buddy Adam. And we had a heavy metal band. He was on drums, I was on guitar. And really it wasn't a band, it was a guy on guitar and a guy on drums that thought they were writing heavy metal music, and we were. And so I proceed to say, hey Phil, my buddy and I have a heavy metal band. And we've determined that you are the perfect singer for our band. Our style of music, you would be perfect. And if anybody has seen interviews with Phil, if you've watched his interaction with people and interviews, you'll know that this next part is true to his personality. He puts his arm around me, this little kid, and he says, sorry, Phil. He says, little man, you let me know when you're ready and I'll come sing. Mind blown. So he proceeds to give me yet another autograph that says, I'll sing Phil. Well, you know what? That just lit my world on fire, and I went home telling my buddy that we're going to get Phil Anselmo in here to sing for us and, all this type of thing. Again, I was fortunate enough to see Pantera a bunch of times, and I ended up getting backstage passes a handful of times as well. And I reminded Phil of this story on one other occasion when I got to meet him. And of course, just being the nice guy that he is, he's like, yeah, of course, I said that, we'll do it. So I've always held that one near and dear. Phil, if you're watching, if you get to see this, the power that you and the bands that you've been in, and musicians in general and many bands have to wield over people and to positively impact and influence somebody at such a wonderful stage in their life that, again, somebody that really needed that aggression and that outlet and that ability to hear other people that were feeling that way and looking at the world that way, and that we weren't alone or weird or anything like that. It's profound, man. Philip H. Anselmo, if you're out there and you get to watch this, man, thank you. And you know what? I do have it in writing that you'll come sing, and I'm not sure you'll remember this story. I'm pretty sure that you won't. But I hope to hear from you. I'd love to strike up a convo. I've had many bands over the years, some heavy, some not. And now I have this show on the Wayback Sessions, and it was just really important for me to share this story about you and all the great things that I got as a young boy, and my experience with Pantera.
That the man don't want you to know. It's about your own salvation. It's about rock and roll. Now there's no church and there's no steeple, but there's a God and there is hell. And you are all my congregation.